you making, big mama?
But they still have it in the table, but I'm not cooked it. Save that for another day.
Rainy day here on the Green Acres Ranch, but here in the outdoor rooster recreation area, just put a little roof area here for them to get under, keep the rain off. No big deal. Let me see if I can get a gander, get you a picture of these roosters under cover. I'm gonna get rain on my camera. There they are, and nice and dry up underneath that shelter. But they're just here enjoying the outdoors in this outdoor rooster recreation area. Morning, Forrest G. And folks, it's raining today. Fatima tries to keep saying that the babies don't have to school because it's raining. She just bolla. Hey, buddy, Roo. Fatima's bolla because it's her day. It's Fatima's day to take Forrest G to school because she doesn't want to get out in the rain. No, Forrest G, he loves the rain.
You don't have school.
That's cool, baby.
Nope.
Your turn. Go out in the rain. Oh, stop the rain.
But I'm sure you don't have school.
Bola.
Nope. That pula.
Imogen's still hiding from the camera because she got bit by an ant on her lip.
Small ants.
Or she's supervising. That's my mixing bowl.
Huh?
That's my mixing bowl.
Why?
Hey, folks. Top of the morning to you. Hope y'all are doing well. It's coming to rain here, which, trust me, we need this rain. When it's raining, you know, everything's nice and cool. This ain't rocket science, but especially when you have that tin roof with no insulation. As long as it's raining, it's cool. There's no dust. The air conditioners keep up. But for the past couple weeks, went back to having no rain. My gosh, it was so hot. We moved the living room back into this room with the air con. Anyhow, we appreciate and welcome the rain. But it's so noisy on that tin roof, I can't sit outside and do a talking head video. You can't hear nothing. I mean, it's just like noise. So I figured I'd just make a couple comments. So I heard there was a debate that went down in the United States last night. This presidential debate. I don't watch those debates for several reasons. Number one, I just never found it like a valid argument to decide based on one 30-minute or 1 hour conversation / argument over who you want to be in charge. I mean, it goes back to how we initially see a person and based on their appearance, their facial features, and we're very judgmental and biased as human beings. We make that split-second decision about a person. That's just human nature, right? I get it. But then you're going to base your vote on the person who is supposedly, reportedly, which is not true, but we've all seen that's not true. But the person who's supposedly in charge of the United States of America, we're going to base our decision on one debate, which, depending who's running the forum, it's usually what? 2 against 1? That's the way it is, right? There's very rarely anybody who's neutral, where it's 1-on-1. But you're going to debate, you're going to base your decision. People are going to base who they're going to vote for over 30 minutes or 1 hour, right? When you should be looking at what has happened over the past 4 years, or what has happened over the past 8 years, or just keep going, right? Look at what's happened and where you're at personally, and where the country is at, both nationally and internationally. That's how people should base their decisions if the world was a fair place, and if the U.S. was a true democracy, which it's not. So debates, for me, I don't watch them. It's a waste of my time. It's just like 2 kids arguing on the playground. Most of everything that politicians say, anyhow, what is it? It's a lie. How do you know if a politician is lying? Their lips are moving. It's pretty simple. But politicians, and this is, unless you've had your head in the sand and you're going to keep your head in the sand and you're still wearing a mask, I'm never going to convince you, right? If you're still wearing a mask and going and getting your vaccines and everything else, I'm never going to convince you. You're too programmed. We have witnessed, probably over the past 4 years, to an absolute certainty that the person who we call the President of the United States is not in total charge of the country. They're not in charge. Now, you go back in time, a video I did about electing an Alzheimer's patient. It was quite clear to me that Joe Biden had Alzheimer's before he was elected president. And competent people and smart people still went out and voted for the guy, when I thought he should have been, enjoying his senior years before that election even went off. You mean to tell me about all the viable candidates in the United States of America, we had to pick an Alzheimer's patient and elect him and let him run the country? Which he did not. He wasn't running the country. It's quite clear. It's quite clear that he was the face of a brand. Like the logo, so to speak, of the brand. But that's all he was. He wasn't making any decisions. He could barely walk up a flight of stairs. We all know this, right? We don't have to rehash this. The point is, he wasn't in charge. The brand, the regime, the handlers, whoever you consider them to be, were, and at this current moment, are in charge of the United States of America. It's not the president. We all know this now. And so if you accept that now, then you have to accept for the past 4 years, the person that was, we say elected, that was put in place by the river, was not running the country. And now the person who is running for office, who's the vice president, for the past 4 years, what performance or contribution did that individual make in a positive way? Nothing. We just considered her a laughing hyena. Right up until the point that the brand decided to, the regime, the corporation, whatever you want to call it, decided to remove Biden as the face of their brand. So yes, the brand removed, you know what these brands call them these days? Brand ambassadors, right? So they removed the brand ambassador, the main brand ambassador, Biden, and they replaced him with Kamala Harris, who is now the face of the brand. It was no different than, you know, these corporations who have had these spokespeople get in trouble or what have you, and they just immediately had to change gears. So it's just funny how powerful the river is, and when they decide this is who we're going to put in there, it doesn't matter when you're controlling the media and you're dictating the narrative. So what I thought was funny, again, I didn't watch any of that shit. I never watched that. It's just a waste of time for me. I tell you, I just look at what's happened over the past decade, where I'm at in my life, how much money are they stealing from me. That's a better indicator than watching a 30-minute argument that they've been coached, they've practiced for, they're basically actors. I'm in the Philippines, that's the way they pronounce it. They're actors, actresses, what have you. It's just theatrics. So what was very funny is I see this title of this other article where, what's the girl's name? Taylor Swift said something immediately after the debate. She's going to vote for Kamala Harris. I'd love for her to just utter the words, world peace. Let me just hear you say it, girl. Just to add the icing on the cake of how naive you are to the ways of the world. Yeah, you got a lot of money. I give it to you. You're a successful entertainer. Now, some people, I think, have called her a country music singer, but I'm a country music fan, and I think I know 2 of her songs. I never got it. I guess it's the Britney Spears, Justin Bieber effect on the younger generation. So kudos to her, obviously, for being a successful entertainer. But to watch 30 minutes or an hour and then come out, oh, I've done my research, it's clear. That's another headline of an article. It's just comical. But if you get the feeling, you get the feeling that the river, the system, the matrix is signaling right now. It seems that Kamala Harris is going to be the next president. As dire as that seems, it's just the feeling right now. Now, in 2 weeks, in 1 month, I could get a different feeling. I'm not making a prediction. Okay, nobody can predict what's going to go down, especially in this particular election, this particular show that the river's going to put on for us. I'm just telling you my feelings right now with all the indicators. And I don't just go to one news source. I go to various news sources. Most of the time I'm on news sources outside the U.S. because you usually learn more about your home country if you go to sources outside of your home country, because they're not as afraid to say politically incorrect things, or they don't know that, hey, shouldn't be saying this. So if you for example, in this country, all the news sources inside there, they're sanitized. They know what they can say and they can't say, or to get in trouble. Where a country over here who doesn't understand their internal politics very closely will say shit because they're not going to get in trouble. They're sitting over here. So don't discount, other sites, other news sources outside the West. You take a sampling of everything around the world. But I don't know, it's just the feeling, the feeling that the river and the media and everything else is preparing us for is the bad news, which a lot of us think is bad news. If anybody thinks they're better off than they were 4 years ago, let me know. If you're better off than you were 4 years ago, I'd be surprised in listening to everybody who lives in the United States. Now, I don't live there. I don't feel the pain on a daily basis. I'm on the other side of the world. But I get a lot of correspondence and a lot of people pouring their hearts out to me about how bad it is over there and how they cannot wait to leave the good old United States of America and move to country X. Whether it's here, Southeast Asia, Colombia, Central America, wherever they're going, but they cannot wait to get out of what's supposed to be the best country in the world. 10 years ago, you didn't have that feeling. You didn't have that communication. There were still guys like me who rolled out, chasing women and partying and that type of lifestyle. And now it's the everyday person and families talking about getting the hell out. So there's been a significant shift, especially if you go back 15 years ago. 15 years ago wasn't this sentiment. And here we are 15 years later, where people are just counting down the days till they can get the hell out of the United States. It's disappointing. In the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I'm disappointed in America in so many ways. I can sit here and talk all day, but basically, didn't watch the debate, don't give a shit, doesn't factor in any decision that I've formulated over a longer period of time. So I guess what I'm saying, you need to expand your planning horizon. If you're trying to decide who to vote for based off of a 1 hour argument, you might need to, my suggestion to you, you might want to expand your planning horizon and take a little bit longer look at history. You need to look at history based on what the country's doing, what your bottom dollar and your checkbook's doing, and how you're able to provide for your family today versus 15 years ago or 20 years ago or 10 years ago, and what direction you think things are going, and what brand, so use the word brand, the Democrats or the Republicans, the brand, the corporation, are going to be able to make course corrections to make life better for you and to secure the integrity of the country. Because in the words of Elon Musk recently, the United States is going bankrupt quickly. You don't got to be a mathematician or an accountant to figure that out. We're spending more than the government's taking in. We're continually going in debt. More. At some point it breaks. A lot of people think that's crazy, but that's what the Romans thought. That's what the Soviets thought. All these great empires thought they were invincible, too big to fail. And they did. I said this many times, but if in 1980 I was to stand on a street corner and say in 10 years the Soviet Union will be dissolved, it'll be no more, they'd have thought you were crazy. They'd have put you in a mental hospital, just like you were standing on the street corner talking about aliens back then. And what happened? A decade later, there's no more Soviet Union. It was much bigger than the United States. Anyhow, enough of the doom and gloom. I know you watch my show to get back to the simplicities of life. And I try to keep things simple. I enjoy living this very simple lifestyle. But in the same sense, sometimes you just can't hold your tongue at the stupidity that goes on in my home country. We elected an Alzheimer's patient. Propped him up like Weekend and Bernie's for 4 years. And now the river's about to put a laughing hyena. They can't do nothing but laugh and serve up, what do they call that, a word stew? No, word salad. Laughter and a word salad is going to be the face of their brand. So it would be quite clear that she wouldn't be running the country as well. And one thing that's concerning is that I think it was the Russian foreign minister said, basically it's a train wreck, or what did she say? It's a train wreck, but every other country in the world is watching that debate, and they're watching the U.S. election to see how much they're going to be punished in the next 4 years. That's a pretty sad view of why every other country on the globe is concerned about our elections. They're just concerned about the U.S. elections to see how bad they're going to be fucking punished. And, you know, talking about sanctions and everything else, right? And just horrible foreign policy. Man, I feel better. Thanks for listening to that little rant. But I guess the gist of it was I just had to laugh. Taylor Swift's made her decision. I can't name 2 fucking songs a girl sings. But I'm sure millions of fans will fucking vote for whoever she votes for. Which again, it's up to the river. You know, one more point I was thinking about, right? You know, you watch that Elvis movie, the recent Elvis movie, and the one point where he passes out, you know, and the Colonel says something like, the only thing that matters right now is getting that man on that stage. You know, because all the fans are out there waiting on him, right? What they do? Doc pulls out a syringe and goes injecting him with some type of stimulant, some type of amphetamine-based, you would say, some type of stimulant, right, to get him back in the game and out on that stage, regardless of what it did to his health. It's my opinion, and I think it's obvious, that that's what they've been doing to poor old Joe Biden. Every time it's showtime and he's got to stand up and get out of his chair and go out there and prop him up like Weekend at Bernie's, I think it's probably a safe assumption to say they've been administering some type of stimulant to get him through that 1 hour or 30-minute event. Then they get him off stage and the dude just crashes out, probably sleeps for 12 hours, whatever. But it reminded me of that scene in the movie. Every time I see this old man go out on stage, right? Well, what happens when you're used to that regime of, you know, doing whatever it takes to get him on stage, and then he doesn't have to get on stage anymore, and they stop administering those stimulants? You're going to see a crash. You're going to see a remarkable crash because he's not being propped up by medicine. And again, I'm not trying to make predictions, but I really thought that I've thought this for a long time, by the time that this election goes down, he's not going to be ambulatory. In other words, able to walk. He's going to be pushed around in a wheelchair. But I would extend that out to by the time whoever gets sworn in, he'll probably attend by being pushed around in a wheelchair. Because I think that with that gap of not having to prop him up, and at that point it don't matter anyhow. They don't need to prop him up where he can stand up and act like everything's okay. I think at the inauguration, Joe Biden will be showing up in a wheelchair. If he's still around. Because Alzheimer's, folks, in my experience, my stepfather had Alzheimer's, so I know a little bit about Alzheimer's patients. It was like a progressive, slow, what's the word? He was going down slowly. So if this is the graph, I'm trying to look at my monitor here. He's going down slowly, right? It's a slow decline until you all of a sudden hit this point, and then it's a very quick decline. You know, it's like you get diagnosed, you know something's wrong, memory's slipping, but it just doesn't continue to take you down like this. The graph don't go like this. It'll go like this, slowly, and then at some point, boom, Anyhow, that's my experience with Alzheimer's patients. And I just see the same thing happening with this old man. That's what I've seen for several years now. So I guess no matter what happens, it's going to be, it's going to be an interesting and bizarre and peculiar ride over the next few months over what's about to go down in the United States. But again, the feeling I get is that the river is about to put Kamala. Gonna put Kamala in there for 8 years. And what does that mean? Continued degradation of the United States of America. But with the positivity being there might be a Republic of Texas and maybe a conglomerate of Montana, Wyoming. Going to be the independent states of America at some point. And those states will be great and powerful, those nations. And then, places like California who have run themselves into the ground. Places like that will be fucking wastelands like Detroit. I gotta get back in the game. I got kids to get to school. I'm gonna eat some of them donuts. Donuts. Oh yeah. It's okay to be jealous. Look at them homemade donuts, my friends. Look at them donuts right there. Ah, yeah, it's focusing on my face. I'm trying to get the right angle on the dangle. Look at them donuts. The old lady made some homemade donuts. If I had some cream to go on top, maybe some chocolate cream, it'd be just like a Krispy Kreme. Look at there. Let's get down to business. More important things. Fatima's homemade donuts. That's not bad at all. It's not like a Krispy Kreme. It's more like a Dunkin' Donuts type donut. So if you went to Dunkin' Donuts, very similar to Dunkin' Donuts. I can get the recipe for the Krispy Kreme. Try to make those. See if the ladies. Well, they've had Krispy Kremes before. They're down with the Krispy Kremes. But that right there is like fresh out of Dunkin' Donuts. Plenty of sugar too. That's delicious. Look here. Even got some hot coffee. Hot coffee in my Yeti cup. I gotta keep this thing under lock and key, or nobody tries to make ice in it and breaks it like the last one. Nice hot cup of joe with some donuts. Life is good, folks. What's the overall point of this talk and this video? It goes back to a story. I've told this story many times, but I had dinner with a gentleman in Thailand years ago who had went into the robes for 6 months. In other words, he had joined the monkhood, went out at this remote temple. There was only one monk there. It was him and the head monk out in the middle of the jungle, off grid, no electricity, no internet. He stayed out in the jungle for 6 months. He came back one time to renew his visa, and just as a side note, it said that everybody treated him like a king. I mean, he basically drove him straight to immigration. He got VIP treatment, went straight back out to the temple. So for 6 months, the guy was incommunicado. He had no communications with the outside world, other than, briefly going to that immigration appointment. Nothing about the news. So we're sitting there having dinner with the guy. He's in his 70s. And somebody asked him, hey man, what did you learn, about being out there in that temple for 6 months? He said, well, the main thing I learned was when I came back, first thing I did is sit down in front of a laptop, catch up on all the news and all the drama in the world and all the world's incidents and politics and all this crap. And after I sat there for a while and caught up on all this shit, I come to a realization that it did not matter. And of course, we're listening. He said it didn't matter because nothing that I could have said or done could have affected or impacted any of those issues or events. All I would have done during that 6 months sitting at the house was get mad at the TV or mad at the laptop every day. So here I am, I spent all that time catching up on this shit and then realized I can't do nothing about it anyhow. He said, so what I learned about going out and being off grid for 6 months in that temple was I don't watch the news anymore because it don't fucking matter. All it does is upset me and get my blood pressure up. I quit watching the news. He said, quit watching, the TV, checking news stories on the internet, don't give a shit. He said, all I do once a month is check to make sure my Social Security check and my pension is deposited into my account and I'm happy. And he said, oh, by the way, if for some reason it doesn't get deposited, in other words, drastic things have happened and now that money's not coming in, it's over, there's no more Social Security, no more pension. He said, what can I do about it? What am I going to be able to do about it? Nothing. So at mid-70s, why worry about it? He said, I feel so much better now. Don't have a care in the world. I'm just enjoying life. And I never forgot that. It was a very powerful explanation and speech and point that the gentleman made. And I just made the point to my buddy yesterday. He's aware of the story, but I said, dude, reflect back to that story. What do? All we do is sit here occasionally on the phone and bitch about politics and bitch about the situation. We're wasting time. Because if we felt passionate enough about the issues, we would be running for office. We would be in there hooking and jabbing with these idiots that we've allowed to get elected because the average American has better things to do. They have more important things to do. They're trying to make a living. And then we let these fucking idiots and these puppets get elected and we wonder why we have fucked up laws. A country that's being run into the ground. I'm not over there protesting. I'm not staging rallies. I'm not running for office. Maybe this talk affects somebody. I don't know. But you get my point, right? If all you're going to do, and all we're going to do is sit around and bitch to one another about it, we're wasting time. Just wasting your time. You might as well go to the bar, get you a beer, look at a girl on a pole. Talk about pork ribs. Because it's more interesting, and cooking pork ribs is something within your scope of control that you can control. You can control how you cook them pork ribs and what sauce and how much salt and how much pepper and seasoning. It has to be, to change the river at this point, it has to be a landslide. It has to be an absolute landslide where the river is afraid to overrule the masses. It can't be by a small margin. The river is going to override whatever comes out by a small margin. It has to be an absolute fucking landslide for the river to back down. But it seems like America is so divided that after what's went down over the past 4 years and people are still have all of a sudden jumped on the Kamala bandwagon That's really a good donut. It's nice and crunchy on the outside. It's very evenly cooked on the inside. Just great flavors with that sugar mixed in there. I really got to give the kudos to the old lady for these donuts. I complained yesterday. The reason I was complaining, we had to go to this very busy little grocery store, sort of like open air grocery store, because it's the cheapest. But if it's the cheapest, everybody goes there. So I'm sitting in the trike trying to, me and John trying to entertain 3 rowdy children while Calamonsi went in there and took 30 minutes to buy a sack of flour and like 4 eggs. Right. It's the old single dad. Pick up my daughter. I'm gonna pick up Maria Mercedes, folks. And that's a Filipina's wallet right there. Just carry the money in your hand. Wad it up. Step 1, wad up the money, and then you just carry it in your hand. No need for a purse or a wallet.
What's that?
When the e-bike is in motion, the babies are pretty good, you know. But the minute the e-bike stops, they get very restless. So Meljean's here buying some flour. Fatima wants to do some baking. I'm not sure what she's gonna do. But I made a mistake going along with this little trip. This busy little store here. It takes forever to buy anything. It's the most barato. It's the cheapest place. Sitting here with these children in the e-bike trying to entertain them is difficult. As long as we're going, they're fine. But the minute we stop somewhere, they're just too restless. Where you see Auntie Meljean?
Yeah.
Where's she at?
Hi guys. Welcome to our channel. Welcome to our channel. Uy, may group.
But it was worth it. Anyhow, it's the power of branding. Who was that infamous leader who said if you're going to tell a lie, you basically tell the biggest lie, keep repeating it over and over and over. It has to be big, it has to be repeated, then people believe it. Something to do with World War II in Germany, if I recall correctly. Anyhow, the power of branding. But right now I choose to focus on these donuts. A little bit darker texture on that one. I don't want to say it's burnt, but changes the flavor. Sort of like the difference between like a light chocolate or extra dark chocolate bar. Alright, I'm out of here. I hope y'all have an absolute wonderful day on this beautiful planet that we call the Earth. Because as long as you're listening to my voice right now, if you're listening to my voice, I guarantee one thing: you're still alive and well and above ground. You might not be walking, you might not be in great health, but you're still alive if you're listening to my voice. Unless they got YouTube up in heaven or down in hell. Maybe they do. I can't guarantee that I'm still alive, but I guarantee you're doing wonderful because you are still alive, no matter who gets elected in one country on the globe. If you really look at the holistic picture, it boils down to, are you still alive? Yep. Anybody in the graveyard would trade places with you or me in a heartbeat. No matter if the Republicans in America are in control or the Democrats. I promise you. Maybe some of them. Might be some of them hardcore old bastards. Like, hey man, I've lived long enough. You want to trade places? I'll trade places with you, man. I'll come over to the dead, and you can live my life. Some of them might look back at you and say, who's president? You tell them, be Democrat or Republican. You say Democrat. Nah, I'm gonna stay right here, man. Come back and see me in 4 years. Some people are that hardcore. The point is, enjoy your life. I sure as hell do.